right, good evening again, everybody. This is the Monday, February 24th, 2025 meeting of the City of Evanston's Planning and Development Committee. I am subbing in as chair for this evening. I'm Jonathan Newsma, City Council member for the 4th Ward. Let's begin with the roll call.
Councilmember Hadakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Ravel.
Here.
Councilmember
Recording in
Burns.
progress.
Councilmember Wynn. Here. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
All right, a quorum being present, I will call the meeting to order, and we will continue with the agenda, which includes approval of the minutes from a number of meetings. If somebody would like to make a motion.
I move approval.
I'll second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee from October 9th, 2023, June 10th, 2024, June 24th, 2024, December 9th, 2024, and January 27th, 2025. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Those minutes are approved, which brings us to public comment. We have one person signed up in person, Beth Cerny from 1222 Washington.
And I'm actually representing everyone in the block,
Okay,
so I think I get 10 minutes, correct?
let me confirm.
That's what it
2
says on the
2 minutes.
website.
Okay, 2 minutes for public comment, but then when the item comes up for discussion, we can give you some additional time.
10, okay, so I have
Right.
handouts.
Okay,
you guys
so
could
so
follow
so just to clarify, 2 minutes.
I thought it was 10 minutes if you represented several people, otherwise we all would have signed up to speak.
Which item is it?
This is not on an item today, it's about zoning insert. It may not even go, according to our alderman, it may not even go to zoning, so we want to make sure that it does go to
Yeah.
zoning.
Let's get clarification on what our rules are. I'll turn to
it
Director
was,
Flax.
2 minutes is supposed to be the length of the time.
2 minutes for public comment. 10 minutes is allocated in what cases?
When we have an item on the agenda and someone represents a group of
Yeah,
neighbors.
when there's an item on the agenda, which in this case there is not. So 2 minutes.
Sure.
Okay. I won't start the clock until she starts talking. Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna speak really quickly here. So
sorry.
we were blindsided that this was going to happen, that the city was going to purchase the lot 1222 Washington Street. Here's even Alderman Juan even said that he knows this was a complete surprise. He had to do it behind closed doors because it's one of this, if neighbors are involved, then decisions don't get made quickly. So this is all a problem with what's going on with, Envision Evanston 2045. Nobody wants surprises about what's happening on their block and next to their homes. If you're afraid of input, then maybe you're making the wrong decision because residents may know best. The lot is a non-conforming lot. There are multiple zoning violations on that lot for a single-family home. Alderman Juan has mentioned that the home will likely not need a major zoning variance and won't necessarily need a zoning hearing. We are asking that there is a zoning review and a zoning hearing for this property. This is a new home. It's not an existing home, and it does not comply with the current zoning regulations. It's actually an existing green space with mature trees, birds of prey living in the trees, and with putting native plants, we can make it an educational space for the kids on the block at the Pope John School and at the Lydia home where foster children live. Once again, so it's completely the lot is approximately 50 feet wide and 92 feet deep. It's only 4,621 square feet. For that property, it must be 5,000,
10-second warning.
Okay, must be a 5,000 square feet. If the new zoning laws are, then it is going to be a R1 property. So I guess I need to ask a question in order for the city to come back to make sure, how can the city purchase this property without knowing that the zoning variances would be approved in order to even put a single-family home on it?
Thank you. Is there anybody else signed up for public comment? We have Joshua Howes and Ben Kadish. Mr. Howes, Mr. Kadish, are you in the room or online? I don't see anybody in the room. I'm not sure I can see everybody online. I see a Ben McAdams, not a Ben Kadish. So going once, going twice. All right, last call for public comment. Public comment is now, oh. I'm going to call Councilmember Harris when we get to that item. So public comment is now over, which brings us to our agenda item number 1. If somebody would like to make a motion on item P1.
I move vacation rentals license for 1111 Pitner Avenue.
Okay, and I understand the applicant is in the room. If you would like to address the committee, and then I'm going to ask Councilmember Harris to weigh in as well. Do we have a second? And I'll second just to have a conversation, but just to give a heads up, this is probably going to get held over for a little bit of time. But I'd like to respect your time for being here and allow you to present your application.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So yes, I'm presenting an application for a vacation rental license for 2 units at 1111 Pitner. The second and third story units, both are 3-bedroom, 1-bath units with a full kitchen and a dining space and a living room. My intention, we've recently furnished the units and staged them for listing as a vacation rental. And we are, I believe we've complied with the appropriate process as the city requires. So requesting approval and welcome any questions about the property.
Are there any questions from committee members?
I have a question. So can you just speak to when you purchased the property? How long have you been the owner of that said property?
So the property was purchased. I'm representing the owner. I'm actually going to be leasing the units from the owner and then listing them for vacation rentals. So I'd be acting as the property manager. I believe the property was purchased about a year ago and then has been renovated since.
Okay. And what happened? Was this originally 2 rental units, and what happened with the families that were renting there?
Yeah, I believe it was originally 2 long-term rental units, and then the building was purchased, and the basement is in the process of being converted into a rental unit as well. The 2 existing units were renovated and then since furnished.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the committee? Councilmember Harris, this is your ward.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me a few minutes of this time. I was just really notified about this Friday, and have concerns about the residents, the community in the neighborhood not having discussion. I don't know that the property was maintained well prior to this, and now that you will have people, for lack of a better word in my vocabulary, more transient, I don't know that it will be cared for. So I'm asking that my fellow council members table this at least until April so that I can get in touch with the people who have vested stake and interest in that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris. The chair will entertain a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Your light's working. My eyes aren't working.
So I guess my question would be, so that the property uses on-street parking, it doesn't have off-street parking? Is that,
It has parking assigned to it, but the parking is being leased out separately currently. So yes, it would utilize on-street parking.
because each unit can have as many as 7 guests. And so that's 2 units with 7 guests each and basically relying on the street parking. So I guess I am interested in whether the neighbors have had an opportunity to really discuss this. Because in the letter that was in our packet that, was I think a copy of the letter sent to residents, didn't really go into any detail particularly about the number of guests and the parking. So I think it really wasn't adequate information to the residents to know how they would feel about it.
Okay, yeah, I apologize for that. My understanding was that the intention of the inclusion was to list the parking restrictions, and as I've did research and there were none listed for Pitner Avenue. So definitely something that we can take into consideration, and I can include in the listing, limiting the number of cars parked on the street if that's required. And then I believe the on-property parking, I believe it's 2 spots in the garage, but if necessary, we can include those in the and require guests to stay off the street.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that the council member for the ward is going to engage the residents so they can discuss the parking and any other issues that might be of concern.
Councilmember Reed, and let the record reflect Councilmember Reed is not present.
Thank you. I don't have a question for you, and I'm going to defer to my colleague in the second ward on this issue. I'm just saying whatever you say is what we'll be doing, you and the residents of the second ward. But I do have some questions for staff regarding vacation rental enforcement, vacation rental registration enforcement. I've had and I'm mentioning this now for this item because as we're moving through approving new items, I think it's important for us to ensure that the current ordinance is being followed as drafted. And I've had a number of complaints from residents regarding illegal vacation rentals that are operating within the city, and the 8th Ward particularly. And so I'm just curious how we're addressing that. I do know from conversations with Director Flax that there's a new software, and so I'd love to hear about that.
Thank you for your question, Councilmember Reed. My name is Liz Williams. I'm the planning manager. So in speaking with the city's Development Services Manager, Andrew Sanroman, who oversees this program, the city has recently contracted with Granicus, which is a third-party vendor that supports municipalities in tracking and enforcement of their short-term rental ordinances. This software is just becoming live and available to staff in the last week or so. And thus far, what we've been able to find out is that there are approximately 200 vacation rentals across the city. And currently, we only have 34 that are registered. So there is a significant number of unlicensed vacation rentals or short-term rentals here in the city. It is the city's intent to work on getting properties into compliance. So my understanding is that the building division will be sending out violation notices, which is one of the items that this software package does afford us in being able to do it in an efficient and productive way. And it's the goal to have those compliance letters issued by the end of March, giving folks likely 60 days to comply with our regulations and actually receive a license. Our ordinance does have a penalty structure in place if there are vacation rentals that are operating outside of the parameters of our ordinance. So we will be noting that as part of the compliance letters that are being sent out to property owners. And then moving forward, staff is aware that there are many concerns that we have with our current ordinance on the books, specifically how we define owner occupancy around short-term rentals. So that is something that staff is also also interested in pursuing some policy updates to our current regulations to get further direction for the city council in terms of their intent and long-term administration of that program.
Thank you for that. One, I'm just going to ask the media to maybe take note of that if you aren't taking note of that, because I think that is something really important. Yeah. And to that note, what are I'm sorry if you don't know this offhand, but the fines?
Sure. So the penalty for is basically, I believe it's $250. I have it in here. Just one second.
$200 for the first.
$200 for the first instance. And then there's a escalating factor beyond that, depending on the number of days that someone is non-compliant. I would say that our current penalty structure is somewhat difficult to administer. So as I mentioned, as part of that update that we would be looking at in the next 6 months or so, bringing forward for your recommendation, would be to simplify that and make it much more easy for us to enforce our penalty structure.
Thank you. And I will say, although I'm sitting here as chair of P&D, that's a discussion I'd like to have. And thank you, Councilmember Nusma, for filling in on short notice. But that's a discussion I'd like to have in the next few months during my tenure as chair. So with that, I think we'll have that discussion. I guess with those numbers, the fact that only 35 out of potentially 200 are registered, thank you for following the process. And thank you to the other applicant who is following the process. And then I'll just close with saying I'm excited about the new technology. I think my understanding is that it's like using AI to crawl through the websites and figure out whether or not folks are listing properties and appropriately registered. So I think that'll be a huge tool. And to my 8th Ward residents who have raised issue about this, we're taking action. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly for the first time, and then Councilmember Hadakatis for the second.
Thank you. So I know we've asked for a while now to have a list like of registry of public of all the rental properties and VRBOs that are registered. And I think that's a really great way to ensure better compliance. So that way, if you know you have a house next door to you, you can check and see if it's been registered. Is there any reason that we don't have that list published of those? So it's only 34, right? So are those 34? Can I find those online?
I do not believe that we currently list the licenses that we have for the city on our website. I defer to Director Flax whether or not that's something she'd like to encourage staff to do.
Because that would be helpful. If we had them, then folks would be able to check and see if there's a property near them that is registered with the city or not. And I know several years ago we asked for that several times. So.
Actually, we also talked about that for the regular registration. What we're looking at is how to handle both 12-month, the long-term registration and vacation rentals. And we'd like to have a little more time to come back with a recommendation on how we're going to do that.
Okay, but I would like to ask again that we consider having that list, a published list of the properties that are registered as rentals, as VRBOs, I think it's not very expensive, and it's an easy way to ensure better compliance.
Yep, and we discussed it, and I agree with you. We just need to get our lists all in order to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hadakatis.
Hi. Question for staff, because I was racking my head around this today. I could have sworn we had a moratorium, or we discussed having a moratorium. And I was looking back at my meeting notes, and did we have was it 1 year from when to when?
There was a moratorium issued by the city council, and I think, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that there was some language in the resolution that moved forward that talked about the moratorium would be in effect for a year or until the city acquired software to be able to administer the program. And because we have acquired software, albeit not fully operational at this point, that was where we were told that we needed to move forward with administering the ordinance.
So we haven't had too many of these come through. And so I remember in the cases we've had in the past, I've always been really hesitant to vote yes, just because this is taking rental property that we need and would be missing middle off the market. So there's, 2, now possibly 3 units that are going to be short-term rentals that could be rented by families, right? The other property, a single-family home and a coach house. That's potentially 5 families that would want to live here that this is off the table. I will, be voting no on these. I think if someone wants to co-sponsor changing the ordinance to not allow non-owner occupied, I'm looking for sponsors. So I think this should be the last of them. So I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember Reed, and then Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the owner occupancy discussion is one to be had. I think that is one to be had. I'm curious, or Councilmember Harris had a question regarding where the tenants that are living in this building went, or that were living here.
As I understand, it was vacated before it was purchased. I'm not familiar with the history, but it's been owned now by the current owner for I believe at least 6 months, if not a year, and it's been renovated. So I believe the units were in need of renovation when the building was purchased. It was I think a depressed asset, and basically looked at investment property for rentals. And I have coordinated with the owner, the developer, the contractor, and look forward to working with him, as someone who's open to this business model. And if I may say, I'm more than willing to serve as a resource for anyone, and welcome. I'm very welcome to have frequent feedback with this committee or the rest of the city. If anything, if any issues do arise, I'm very willing to be open and dialogue, and hopefully be a resource if this is something that the city would like to explore moving forward, of how to do vacation rentals the right way.
And forgive me, I missed the top of the meeting.
Yeah.
Who are you?
My name is Alex George. I'm representing the application for 111 Pitner, 1111 Pitner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you their attorney or?
No, I'll be acting as a property manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think that's helpful. Yeah, that's it.
Councilmember Kelly.
Oh, I just want to let Councilmember Hedekatis know that I'll be happy to partner with you on that. That's all.
I'll do.
And Councilmember Wynn.
I'll move to hold this item.
Maybe a table until April
Oh,
14th.
excuse me. I'll move to table the item until the,
First meeting in April,
yeah,
which would be
first
April
meeting,
14th.
April 14th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded that we table this until April 14th. Do we need to take a vote on that motion? Yes. We do. So let's vote on that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and item P1 is tabled until April 14th. Which brings us now to item P2, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I will move to table item P2 because I think we're going to end up in the same place, and we got council. And unless folks want to. So I'll move to table item P2 to our next meeting as well.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, to our April meeting.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we table item P2 until April 14th. Is the applicant in the room? Was the applicant prepared to make a presentation? Like, I want to offer this applicant
Sure.
the same respect we offered the first one. So before voting on this motion, let's hear from the applicant and then we'll vote.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Ramos, my wife Jackie Ramo. The property's 1726 Emerson. It's a main house and a coach house. Purchased the property back in 2009, did a gut rehab of both houses, been operating them as long-term rentals. They both have separate driveways, so off-street parking. Main house has actually also a 2-car garage along with a driveway that can fit 2 additional cars. That was about all I had to kind of add to give you a quick overview on that one.
Okay. Are there any questions for this applicant from members of the committee?
I'll just note, I apologize.
Okay. Councilmember Reed and then Ravel.
No, go ahead. Ravel. Councilmember.
I just wanted to note that the packet didn't include a copy of the letter that you sent to nearby residents. So we would certainly want that in the April packet.
We did submit those.
I mean, you may have sent it, but it just wasn't in our packet.
Yeah, we can add it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
we had shared it.
Staff is noting this request. Okay. Anything else from Councilmember Ravel, Councilmember Reed, and then Councilmember Burns?
Councilmember Burns can go first.
I think there was a motion made or we talked about making a referral. So I'm not quite sure what direction we're going to go in. I think whatever we're going to do with vacation rentals, we just need to provide clear direction to the community so that folks just know, what our final position is on this. They're making these investments obviously and want to know what they can do with it. Personally, as it concerns the Fifth Ward, I have a lot of concerns about them. We have, an affordability issue, and, we're trying to figure out how to find a way to house people who have lived in Evanston for a long period of time, trying to find a way to stay here. And we have quite a bit of vacation rentals, many of that are operating illegally, and these could be places that could that could rent out to more permanent residents. And so I'd love to see us try to partner with folks like yourself to see how we could do that, as opposed to using the little units that we have for investment property. But whatever we're going to do, I think we need to have that conversation, figure out like what are we going to do with these applications. If we do want vacation rentals, where, when is it appropriate, under what circumstances? We just need to have that conversation. And so I think that's something that we owe people who are, interested in pursuing these opportunities in Evanston.
Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you were coming in the room at the time as chair of APW, or this is not APW, this is P&D. As chair of P&D, that's a discussion that we said we're going to have over the next couple months. I do, and I will also note there's a referral being made now on the owner-occupied side there that I guess myself and Councilmember Kelly are co-sponsoring with Councilmember Hedikotis. I do just want to say that, to be clear, that these are in front of us because they are not owner-occupied, correct? And I will kind of preempt our conversation on the owner-occupied side and say that I don't want us to lose sight, and as we're having this discussion, I want us to keep in mind that sometimes these non-owner-occupied short-term rentals are people's lifeline. They don't have a place to stay. They're either, maybe it's not as serious as their lifeline. They're a traveling nurse and they're temporarily staying in these short-term rentals. Maybe it's a family that's just been displaced and they're looking for a quick place to land within the city of Evanston. And not that these are always the most affordable, especially when you're looking at a full month of stay, but sometimes these can fill a gap. And I just want us to make sure that we're keeping these more flexible options for folks open. So I just want to preface with that. So that is it. I think I'll make my motion unless there's further discussion.
There is a motion on the table that we table this until April 14th.
Correct.
So if there's no further discussion, let's take a vote on that motion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries, and item P2 is tabled until April 14th.
Thanks.
Thank you. There being no further business to come before this committee, I will declare this meeting not quite yet adjourned.
I just have one question, and, with all due respect, Councilmember Hedikotis, is there, and maybe Ms. Flax, I know a lot of residents came out this evening with a question about, Is there any means of bringing that before the Land Use Commission to assess the property on Washington in terms of drainage, landscaping? It does seem to me too, like, if we're going to build a house on, that's the plan, that it should be at least assessed and with guidance. Is that something that, is there a path for that?
We're having hopefully a meeting Wednesday with SEPA staff and also the high school with residents who could make it. And then it's also the main topic of discussion in the March 9th Ward meeting, which is on the 17th. So,
Okay. I just meant in terms of the experts that we have on the Land Use Commission to assess it for all those things that I mentioned and much more. Is there a path to have that? I don't think it would end up changing a lot, but at least we'd get guidance and recommendations and.
I would say at this point, we have not received a zoning analysis application, so determining which review process the project would have to go through would be determined based on that. If this proposal does trigger what is known as a major variation, it will go to the Land Use Commission for their review. If it's a minor, that's something that our city law has indicated as an administrative staff review.
Okay,
And
so.
this is something, just to clarify, this is something that would have happened, will happen anyway.
Absolutely
absent
correct.
So
any
this will go
feedback.
before zoning, the Land Use Commission most likely because of some of those variances that were pointed out this evening.
I don't want to speculate at this point without having a final plan in place to be able to determine what the process is. It would be either a minor variation or a major variation. The major variation is what would go to the Land Use Commission for review.
So, so the residents could check in with staff to find
Yep,
out.
and also
so
if
that
it is
they
a
know.
minor variation, residents within 250 feet of the address will receive a postcard notice when this if it is an administrative review, with the opportunity to comment, provide their feedback on whether or not they feel that the proposed project meets the standards for review. There's also an appeal opportunity for residents built into that process as well. If they disagree with the administrative decision, that does go to the Land Use Commission for review.
Great. So I think it would be great if they're all really understand and apprised of that. If you had any questions.
Right, so let me just clarify
Thank
the
you.
process.
Thank you very much.
Step one in the process is a zoning application.
Correct,
Right,
yes.
and so staff will review that application. There are one of three possible outcomes.
Yep.
No variance is required.
Correct.
A minor variance is required.
Correct.
Or a major variance is required.
Correct.
If there's no variance required, then they apply for the building permit. Neighbors, other than the conversation that Councilmember Harikatis is having, neighbors will not be notified.
That is correct.
If it's the second case, which is a minor variation, neighbors will be notified.
Correct.
But it is still a staff decision,
Correct.
which is appealable by neighbors to
The Land Use
the Land
Commission.
Use Commission. Okay.
Yep.
The third condition is a major variation. Neighbors will still be notified by postcard, but it bypasses staff and goes straight to the Land Use Commission.
That is correct. I will caveat, just to make it even more complicated, technically a neighbor could appeal the zoning administrator's determination. The zoning analysis application that you mentioned would travel right to building permit. So in all three options, there are opportunities for neighbors to appeal.
Okay. Hopefully that answers the questions from the neighbors. And yeah. And we do have a bit of an agenda at City Council tonight. So I'm going to call this meeting adjourned and council will start in 5 minutes. Thank you, everybody.